I can say my childhood, I would say broken. I would say broken. I was raised by my grandmother. I knew my mom, never knew my father. As I grew up and I'm present in the church and I'm watching all these people and I'm excited about, this is family, and I found out that I'm the product of a man that was in that church. And I had to be this silent person, just sit back, a little girl. And it developed a huge hate in my heart that all men were the same. And I found family more in people that were addicts or people in the streets. It seemed like that's where, I looked for love from other people because I was hurt by the family that I looked to the most.
My favorite childhood memories are probably doing speech therapy with my grandmother. I did it for years after losing my hearing. She picked me up from school every day. It was dependable, it was a routine, something I knew I'd always have.
My mother was extraordinarily depressed. My father was an alcoholic. It was like oil and water. I grew up with screaming, yelling, verbal abuse 24/7. So it was rough. It was really rough. I wasn't ever really good enough. And, I felt like I was only, the good enough girl. I wasn't a good girl. So I just wanted to escape from that, and I became the overachiever. We had next door neighbors who took us to the library once a week, and I just like having books around me because I will sit in the middle of the aisles like I did as a child from 3 years on with a book in my lap and be surrounded by books.
After getting into the drugs, I couldn't find another way to make myself happy. So what I would do is I would get out of one bad relationship and I would go into the next. And then I end up being in the sex industry by just saying, hey, this is how I make money. This is how I'm gonna make it work. And a lot of guys would benefit off of me because I would get attached. I would get attached to someone that was using me only for their need.
I was a functional alcoholic for probably a year before I left the Tribune. After I was let go, I was spent 2 years in an apartment by myself or with someone who came into my life and introduced me to crack cocaine. So now I'm drinking myself to death and I'm using crack every day and I'm being verbally and sexually abused and I got to where I couldn't leave my home. And I remember throwing myself on the floor and asking God where he was.
I was in a relationship with somebody that he sold drugs, and it was a common occurrence for women to use their bodies to pay for their drugs, and something I would see all the time, and it became normalized for me.
Before I met Created, I can say it was chaotic. They helped change my life really from where it all started from, like my spiritual battle, because I felt like I wasn't loved anymore, that it wasn't God. What God did I have that would let me go through some of the things that I went through? And they changed my way because it was people that just loved you right where you're at. And I learned and Created to just be able to be myself. And I learned that it was okay to cry. It was okay to need help. And I also learned that community was one of the biggest things that I could ever have.
I finally found at home with Created. I think when it's weird, I was able to nest. For so long, I lived out of a suitcase. You think you need to be able to grab your stuff at the drop of a hat. And I started, just nesting, putting clothes away, putting decorations up for something that I realized, I'm at home. I look forward to coming home and hanging out with my housemates.
I think the most important thing about Created making me feel at home was feeling something I'd never felt before, and that was unconditional love. No shame, just it's gonna be okay, and you're okay, and we all make mistakes, but I love you no matter what happens.